The first thing you notice is the smell. Salt drifts in from the ocean before the sun fully climbs above the horizon. It mixes with damp wooden planks that have soaked up decades of sea air. Somewhere nearby, fresh coffee is brewing behind a small diner window, and a faint sweetness from warm saltwater taffy still lingers from yesterday. The morning feels cool against your skin, carrying the quiet promise of another summer day. We step onto the boardwalk while most of the city is still asleep. The boards creak softly beneath our feet. Every step brings its own familiar sound, a gentle rhythm that belongs only here. Waves roll onto the beach with patient certainty, never rushing, never stopping. A few gulls circle overhead, calling to one another as if they have already started the day's conversation. The storefront windows remain dark for now. Their colorful signs wait for someone to flip the switches inside. Metal gates cover souvenir shops, arcades, and little candy stores, but you can almost imagine the laughter that will soon spill onto the walkway. The whole place feels like it's taking one slow breath before waking, alone. Maintenance worker pushes a wide broom across the boards, sweeping away yesterday's footprints and windblown sand. It happens every morning, long before most visitors arrive, keeping the famous boardwalk ready for another day beside the Atlantic. The horizon slowly brightens. Golden light stretches across the ocean until it reaches our feet. The polished boards glow with soft amber colors, and every nailhead catches a tiny spark of sunlight. Shadows grow shorter with every passing minute. Even the old benches seem to warm themselves after the cool night. Nothing feels hurried. An older couple walks hand in hand without saying much. A fisherman carries his tackle toward the surf. Someone opens a nearby door, and the gentle clink of cups drifts into the salty air. The city is beginning to stir, but it still belongs to those early risers who know this quiet version by heart. If you grew up in this era, you remember mornings that seemed to last forever. For just a little while longer, the boardwalk belongs only to the sound of the sea, the scent of salt in the breeze, and the comforting feeling that an ordinary day can still become a memory worth keeping. The sun is higher now, and the boardwalk is slowly finding its voice. You can hear shop doors opening one by one. A radio comes to life somewhere behind a counter. Someone laughs in the distance, and the sound drifts across the wooden planks with the ocean breeze. The day is just beginning, and there is nowhere else we need to be. You and I are going to spend one full day here. We'll watch Atlantic City wake with the morning light. We'll follow the crowds as they fill the boardwalk, wander past shop windows and amusement piers, pause for quiet family moments, and stay until the neon signs begin to glow against the evening sky. We won't rush a single step. Every hour has its own story, and every corner holds a memory waiting to be found, but there is another story quietly unfolding around us. Right now, in the summer of 1974, this place still feels timeless. The laughter is real, the businesses are busy, families return year after year, believing these summers will always look exactly like this. Yet beyond the edges of today's sunshine, change is already beginning to gather. Roads are improving, new shopping centers are pulling people away from old downtown streets. The habits that built places like this are slowly starting to shift, almost too gently to notice. We'll see those first small signs before our walk is over. For now though, we simply keep moving forward, one wooden plank at a time, letting the ocean breeze carry us through a day that still feels wonderfully complete. If you enjoy walking back into these forgotten times, consider subscribing to The Way We Were so you don't miss the next journey. Every walk is another chance to remember the places that quietly shaped everyday life, so stay with me. By the time the stars appear over the Atlantic, this boardwalk will feel less like a destination and more like a place you've always known. And perhaps somewhere along the way, you'll recognize a piece of your own story waiting here beside the sea. Morning settles over the boardwalk with a gentle confidence. The bright gold of sunrise softens into the clear light of a summer day, and the breeze carries just enough coolness to remind you that the ocean has been awake long before we arrived. The wooden planks are drying from the night's damp air, releasing that familiar scent of weathered timber and salt that belongs to only a handful of places in America. We keep walking. Each step brings another small moment to notice. Owner props open the front door and arranges a chalkboard menu on the sidewalk. Fresh coffee drifts outside, mixing with the smell of warm cinnamon rolls that have just come from the oven. A delivery truck eases along a side street, unloading boxes before the crowds make the roads too busy. The boardwalk doesn't wake all at once. It stretches little by little, like someone opening their eyes after a good night's sleep. One storefront lights up, then another. Soon the colorful signs begin to glow, even though the sun is already bright enough to make them unnecessary. They aren't trying to compete with daylight, they're simply part of the personality of this place. Ahead of us, a souvenir shop owner is carefully arranging postcards in a spinning rack. Tiny plastic lighthouses, seashell ornaments, beach towels, and polished glass bottles filled with colored sand all find their places in the display. Nothing is rushed, every item is straightened as though the first customer of the day deserves. The very best welcome, a family walks by carrying folded beach chairs under their arms. The youngest child skips ahead, unable to contain the excitement. His sandals slap against the wooden boards with quick little sounds that echo between the storefronts. His parents smile without needing to say anything. They already know this day will be remembered long after the sun goes down. Children don't measure vacations by calendars. They measure them by moments like these. The ocean keeps us company on one side while the city waits on the other. Waves rise and fall with the same steady rhythm they have followed for thousands of years. They never seem impressed by the hotels or the crowds. They simply arrive, retreat, and arrive again. A few early swimmers test the cool Atlantic water, laughing the instant they step into the surf. Others spread colorful towels across the sand, claiming their favorite spots before the beach grows busy. Lifeguard stands stand empty for a little longer, but they won't stay that way. Before long, whistles and cheerful reminders will become part of the soundtrack. We pass a photographer carrying a large camera around his neck. He watches the light carefully. Morning is kind to photographs. Faces look softer. Shadows stay gentle. Families will stop for portraits later, smiling with the ocean behind them, creating little paper memories that will sit inside albums for decades. In 1974, most vacation photos are still taken on rolls of film, meaning every picture matters a little more. People pause before pressing the shutter, hoping they captured exactly the right smile. That small bit of patience gives these mornings a different feeling. Nothing is instant. Every memory has to be waited for. The aroma changes as we continue walking. Fresh popcorn begins popping inside one stand. Another vendor starts roasting peanuts, and the sweet, warm scent drifts across the boardwalk. Nearby, someone pulls warm saltwater taffy until it shines beneath bright shop lights. The candy stretches again and again, folding over itself in slow, practiced motions that visitors have been watching for generations. You could stand here for 10 minutes without realizing it. Simple work has a way of becoming its own quiet performance. An older man settles onto a weathered bench facing the sea. He unfolds a newspaper with careful hands, smoothing each page before beginning to read. Around him, the world grows busier by the minute, but he never seems bothered by the noise. Perhaps this has been his morning routine every summer for years. There is comfort in returning to the same place. You don't come because everything is new. You come because it feels wonderfully familiar. Further ahead, bicycles glide past in the early hours while the paths are still open and uncrowded. Their tires hum softly across the boards. Friends greet one another with easy smiles, exchanging simple conversations about the weather, the waves, and how busy they expect the weekend to become. Nobody seems to be watching the clock. The morning itself is enough. The sunlight now dances across windows filled with postcards, sunglasses, straw hats, and bright beach toys. Reflections shimmer like tiny pieces of water. Every storefront invites you to slow down just a little longer. A little girl stops in front of an arcade that hasn't opened yet. She presses both hands against the glass, staring at rows of colorful machines waiting in silence. Inside, flashing lights remain dark for now, but she already imagines the games she'll play before the day is over. Her father gently taps her shoulder, smiling as they continue walking together. There is something magical about waiting. Sometimes the anticipation becomes part of the memory itself. The boardwalk is fully awake now. Conversations blend with crashing waves. Shopkeepers greet familiar faces. Beach umbrellas begin appearing across the sand like bright flowers opening beneath the summer sun. Every direction offers another ordinary moment that somehow feels unforgettable. If you grew up in this era, you remember mornings that ask nothing from you except to enjoy them. We keep moving, knowing the day is only beginning. Ahead of us, the streets will grow louder, the crowds thicker, and the boardwalk will reveal another side of itself before the afternoon never arrives. By noon, the street has changed. The quiet footsteps of early morning have given way to a steady, cheerful rhythm. The boardwalk is alive now. Conversations drift in every direction. Laughter rises above the sound of the waves. Somewhere nearby, a carousel organ plays a bright melody that seems to float on the ocean breeze. The scent of sunscreen, popcorn, grilled hot dogs, and warm saltwater taffy all mingle together, creating a fragrance that belongs to summer itself. We slow our pace. There is no reason to hurry through a place like this. Families move past carrying colorful beach umbrellas over their shoulders. Teenagers stroll in small groups, laughing at jokes that will probably be forgotten tomorrow but remembered every time they hear a favorite old song. Grandparents walk carefully beside grandchildren, stopping Every few minutes to point towards something that catches a young pair of eyes. The boardwalk has become a meeting place, not just for visitors, for generations. A little farther ahead, an arcade has opened its doors. The familiar chorus of pinball machines, electronic chimes, and cheerful bells spills out onto the walkway. Bright lights flash behind wide windows, inviting everyone inside for just one game. A young boy stands frozen outside, gripping a handful of quarters so tightly they leave little circles in his palm. He studies every machine before making his choice, knowing those few coins have to last the afternoon. In 1974, a single quarter can still buy several minutes of simple entertainment in many arcades, making every decision feel important. It isn't only about winning, it's about making the moment last. If you grew up in this era, you remember the sound of quarters dropping into a machine. We continue past a long row of souvenir shops. The spinning postcard racks turn gently whenever the breeze catches them. Shelves overflow with seashell necklaces, colorful beach balls, woven sun hats, and tiny bottles filled with Atlantic City. Shopkeepers greet strangers with the same friendly smile they've offered every summer for years. Some visitors buy something expensive. Others leave with only a postcard. Years later, both memories are worth exactly the same. Across the boardwalk, a photographer stands beside a painted backdrop of the ocean, inviting families to gather together. Parents straighten collars, children wiggle impatiently. Someone reminds everyone to smile just one more time. The shutter clicks. For one small instant, an ordinary afternoon becomes something permanent. No one sees the photograph yet. That little print will arrive days later, carrying the sunlight of this very moment back into someone's living room. The ocean sparkles under the high summer sun. The beach below is crowded with striped umbrellas stretching almost as far as we can see. Children build elaborates and castles that the tide will quietly erase before morning. Teenagers toss footballs across the sand while parents read paperbacks beneath wide umbrellas, occasionally looking up just to watch their families laugh. Nobody worries about perfect schedules. The afternoon unfolds naturally. There is always another hour. A nearby snack stand draws a steady line of hungry visitors. Fresh lemonade is poured over ice. Paper trays hold crispy French fries dusted with salt. Hot dogs disappear almost as quickly as they're prepared. A family shares one large bucket of popcorn instead of buying for smaller ones, passing it back and forth as they walk together. Simple meals somehow taste better outdoors. Perhaps it's the sea air, perhaps it's the company, or perhaps summer has its own recipe. A street musician begins playing a familiar tune on an old saxophone. People don't stop completely, but many slow their pace. Some smile, others quietly hum along without realizing it. A little girl whirls in circles while her parents laugh from the sidelines. Music has a remarkable way of becoming part of a place. Years later, one familiar melody can bring the whole afternoon rushing back. We pause beside one of the long wooden benches overlooking the beach. From here, everything feels connected. The rolling waves, the colorful umbrellas, the endless line of shops, the laughter carried on the wind. For a few peaceful moments, nobody seems to be thinking about tomorrow. This afternoon is enough. That feeling is surprisingly rare. Farther along the boardwalk, an older couple shares an ice cream cone the way they probably have for decades. They sit close together without saying very much. Every so often they point toward the ocean or smile at passing children. Not every memory needs words. Some are built from comfortable silence. The sunlight now falls almost straight overhead, making the polished wooden planks glow beneath thousands of moving footsteps. Shadows hide beneath benches and storefront awnings while visitors search for brief moments of cool shade before stepping back into the warmth. The city hums with quiet confidence. Atlantic City has welcomed vacationers for generations, and in 1974 the boardwalk remains one of America's most recognizable seaside destinations, drawing families from nearby states every summer. Yet nothing about the afternoon feels famous. It simply feels familiar. That may be the greatest gift this place offers. You don't need to be someone important here. You only need to arrive. If you grew up in this era, you remember afternoons that seemed to stretch forever, when one more ride, one more game, or one more walk always felt possible before dinner. The sun begins its slow journey westward. The light grows softer almost without anyone noticing. Store owners glance toward the sky. Families begin gathering their towels from the beach. Somewhere in the distance, dinner plates are already being stacked inside busy restaurants. The day isn't ending, it's simply changing, and with every passing hour, the boardwalk reveals another side of itself, waiting patiently beneath the first hints of the coming evening. The afternoon settles into a slower rhythm. The brightest heat of the day hangs over the boardwalk, softening every sound just a little. The breeze still comes in from the Atlantic, but now it carries the warmth of sunlets, and the wooden planks beneath our feet have absorbed hours of sunshine, and they glow with a rich golden color that seems to stretch endlessly ahead. We leave the busiest part of the crowd for a while. Just a few streets back from the boardwalk, everyday life quietly continues. Vacation memories are being made by visitors, but for thousands of people, this is simply another Tuesday. Delivery drivers unload crates behind restaurants. A barber sweeps fresh clippings from the floor. Someone waters flowers outside a small row house while neighbors pause to exchange a few friendly words. Atlantic City is more than a destination, it is home. Laundry sways gently on clotheslines behind narrow houses. Open windows let radios play into the warm afternoon air. Somewhere, a screen door opens and closes with its familiar spring-loaded snap. The smell of tomato sauce slowly cooking drifts from one kitchen while fresh bread cools on another windowsill. A neighborhood doesn't need grand landmarks. Sometimes it is remembered by its smallest sounds. If you grew up in this era, you remember hearing screen doors long before you saw who was coming to visit. We follow one family through an ordinary afternoon. Nothing remarkable happens. That is exactly what makes it beautiful. Dad has finished work early enough to spend the rest of the day with everyone. His shirt sleeves are rolled neatly to his elbows, and he carries his shoes in one hand after leaving the beach. The children race ahead, arguing over who found the biggest seashell. Their mother smiles without trying to settle the debate. Some questions never need an answer. The youngest child suddenly stops. A small penny lies between the wooden planks. He kneels, carefully works it loose with his fingers, and proudly holds it up to the sunlight as though he has discovered buried treasure. His father laughs. Looks like you're buying dessert. The coin disappears safely into a small pocket. For the rest of the day, that penny feels more valuable than $1. In 1974, a child could still walk into many neighborhood candy stores with a handful of coins and leave smiling. The little things carried surprising weight. We wander back toward the boardwalk as the afternoon slowly begins to lean toward evening. The beach is changing. Children who spent hours building castles now decorate them with shells before the tide arrives. Parents shakes and from colorful towels while carefully folding beach chairs that have become warm from the sun. Teenagers promise one another they'll meet again after dinner near the amusement piers. Nobody says goodbye. They simply say, "See you later." Summer has a way of making tomorrow feel guaranteed. A grandfather pauses near the railing overlooking the ocean. His grandson stands beside him, quietly watching the waves. Neither speaks for several moments. The older man finally points toward the horizon. Ships always look smaller than they really are. The boy nods. Years from now, he may forget the exact words. He will not forget standing there. Some lessons are never meant to be written down. They are passed from one generation to the next in quiet moments like this. The smell of fresh seafood begins drifting across the boardwalk. Restaurants are preparing for the evening rush. Kitchen doors swing open and closed, pots simmer. Cooks call short instructions across busy kitchens while waitresses straighten tables and refill sugar dispensers before the first dinner guests arrive. Everything is preparing for another chapter of the day. Nothing feels rushed. Experience has taught everyone the rhythm of summer. We pass a gift shop where a young couple debates whether to buy one last souvenir. They pick up postcards, then a snow globe, then a framed photograph. Finally, they laugh and settle on a simple keychain with the words Atlantic City stamped across polished metal. Years later, it will hang quietly on a hook near their front door. Not because it is valuable, because it reminds them of who they were together. Objects often become caretakers of memory. The afternoon light begins to soften. Longer shadows stretch across the boardwalk, giving the wooden planks a striped pattern of light and shade. The air feels more comfortable now. Families who disappeared into hotels for an afternoon rest begin returning, refreshed and ready for another walk before sunset. You can sense the anticipation. The day isn't winding down. It's gathering itself for one final celebration. A young employee outside an amusement pier checks every ride with practiced care. He walks from one attraction to another, tightening a bolt here, testing a gate there. Soon the lights will come alive, and hundreds of riders will trust that everything has been prepared. Routine creates confidence. Most people never notice the work. Behind ordinary joy, as we continue walking, a familiar voice calls out from a small ice cream stand. A man behind the counter recognizes returning customers before they even place an order. The usual. They smile. He remembers. Places become special when people remember your name, your favorite flavor, or the way you always stop by before sunset. That kind of familiarity cannot be built overnight. It grows slowly, season after season. If you grew up in this era, you remember places where someone behind the counter already knew your order before you spoke. The sun now begins its gentle descent toward the western skyline. The ocean reflects streaks of gold instead of bright white. Storefront windows catch the changing light, and the boardwalk seems to pause for one quiet breath before evening arrives. Ahead, the first neon signs are preparing to glow. Another version of Atlantic City is about to appear, just as unforgettable as the one we've spent the afternoon discovering. The sun slips lower, and the whole boardwalk seems to exhale. The bright heat of the afternoon fades into a comfortable warmth. The ocean breeze grows cooler again, carrying with it the scent of salt, grilled seafood, buttered popcorn, and the faint sweetness of cotton candy. The sky turns from pale blue to soft shades of gold, peach, and lavender, and for a few quiet moments, everyone seems to slow down just enough to notice. We stop at the railing. The Atlantic stretches before us like polished glass, broken only by gentle waves rolling toward the shore. The sunlight dances across the water one last time before sinking closer to the horizon. Couples stand shoulder to shoulder without speaking. Children point excitedly at distant boats. Even the gulls seem quieter now, gliding effortlessly on the evening air. Some sunsets ask for conversation. Others ask only for silence. As daylight fades, the boardwalk begins changing into something entirely different. Storefront lights flicker on one after another, each adding another warm glow to the gathering dusk. Neon signs hum softly as their colors bloom into reds, blues, greens, and golden yellows. Reflections shimmer across polished windows, turning an ordinary walk into something almost dreamlike. The day is not ending, it is becoming another memory. If you grew up in this era, you remember the first moment the neon lights came alive. Families return after dinner, dressed a little more neatly than they were during the afternoon. Fathers have traded sandy sandals for polished shoes. Mothers wear light summer dresses that move gently in the evening breeze. Children, freshly washed after a day on the beach, struggle to hide their excitement as they spot the glowing amusement rides ahead. Everything feels fresh again, as though the day has been given a second beginning. Music spills out from open doorways. A jukebox inside a small restaurant plays a familiar tune. Laughter drifts through open windows where diners linger over slices of pie and cups of coffee. Somewhere farther down the boardwalk, a live band tunes its instruments before the night's first performance. The melodies blend with the steady rhythm of the waves. Neither one tries to overpower the other. Together, they become the soundtrack of the evening. We wander toward the amusement piers. The lights seem brighter now against the darkening sky. The Ferris wheel turns slowly, lifting riders high enough to see the coastline stretching in both directions. From the top, the city glows like a necklace of tiny stars wrapped around the edge of the Atlantic. A carousel spins nearby. Its painted horses rise and fall beneath hundreds of warm bulbs that have delighted children for generations. Their polished faces shine with the same expressions they wore years ago, and they will wear those same expressions long after tonight is over. The carousel has become one of those rare things that seems untouched by time. Every child believes the ride belongs to them alone. Every parent remembers riding it too. In 1974, many of the boardwalk's amusement attractions still draw families who return summer after summer, making familiar rides part of family tradition. Rather than a one-time experience, traditions rarely announce themselves. They simply happen again. And then one day you realize they've become part of your life. The smell of fresh caramel drifts through the evening air. An older couple shares a paper bag filled with warm roasted peanuts while watching people pass by. Two teenage friends carry oversized stuffed animals won at carnival games, laughing louder each time someone asks how they managed to win them. A little boy proudly wears a paper sailor hat that is already beginning to wrinkle around the edges. Nothing here is expensive enough to change a life. Yet somehow, everything feels priceless. We continue walking beneath rows of glowing lamps. The wooden planks beneath our feet creak with every step, just as they did this morning. The sound is almost comforting now. Thousands of people have walked here today, each carrying different hopes, worries, and stories. Yet for a few hours, they have all shared the same stretch of boardwalk beneath the same evening sky. Places have a way of bringing strangers together, not through grand events, through ordinary moments lived side by side. A family pauses beside a postcard stand before heading back to their hotel. The youngest daughter carefully chooses one showing the boardwalk lit at night. "I'm sending this to Grandma," she says. Her mother smiles. "She'll love it." Days from now, that postcard will arrive in someone's mailbox carrying nothing more than a handwritten note, a postage stamp, and the simple message, "We wish you were here." Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes those 5 words hold an entire summer. The sky grows darker. The stars begin appearing one by one above the Atlantic, while the moon lays a silver path across the water. The crowds are still lively, but there is a gentleness to the night now. Conversations become softer, footsteps slow. People seem reluctant to leave, as though walking back to their hotels means admitting another summer day has quietly slipped away. You can feel it. Nobody wants to be first to say goodnight. If you grew up in this era, you remember nights that seemed endless, when you believed tomorrow would always bring another walk, another sunset, another chance to stand beside the sea. We take one last slow look down the length of the glowing boardwalk. The lights stretch into the distance like a ribbon of memories waiting to be gathered. Behind us, laughter still rises from the amusement piers. Ahead, the ocean continues its endless conversation with the shore. Everything feels complete, and yet, just beneath the beauty of this perfect evening, something quieter waits beyond the horizon. The boardwalk still shines tonight, but change has already begun its slow approach, even if almost no one can see it yet. Night settles gently over the boardwalk, but as we stand beneath the glowing lights, it becomes easier to notice something that no one here is really talking about. Not because it is dramatic, because it is quiet. Places like this rarely disappear all at once. They change one season at a time. One family decides to spend their vacation somewhere new. A favorite shop closes after the owner retires. An old hotel waits a little longer each year before hanging the no vacancy sign. The changes are so small that almost nobody notices them while they are happening. Life simply keeps moving. By the middle of the 1970s, more Americans are traveling in different ways. Highways make longer trips easier. New suburban shopping malls become gathering places that stay comfortable in every season. Young people leave familiar neighborhoods to find opportunities in growing cities, returning less often than they once did. No single moment changes everything. Thousands of little moments do. The boardwalk still welcomes visitors. Children still chase one another beneath the lights. The carousel still turns. The waves still meet the shore exactly as they always have. Yet some of the people who grew up here quietly begin to wonder if the summers feel just a little different than they used to. Not worse, just different. An older shopkeeper notices fewer familiar faces each year. A waitress remembers families who haven't returned in a long time. A hotel clerk recognizes that more guests are staying for weekends instead of entire weeks. None of them can say exactly why. They simply feel the rhythm changing. That is often how an era ends, not with a loud farewell, with habits slowly fading into memory. The wooden planks beneath our feet continue to carry millions of footsteps, but every footprint belongs to a different generation. Parents who once raced toward the amusement rides now walk more slowly beside their own children. The little boy who proudly found a penny this afternoon will one day bring his family here and search for pieces of the place he remembers. Some will still be here. Others will exist only in stories. If you grew up in this era, you know how strangely familiar an old place can feel, even after it has changed. You recognize the curve of the shoreline, the scent of the sea, the sound of the waves. But there is also a quiet feeling that something invisible has been left behind. Perhaps it isn't the buildings we miss most. Perhaps it is the pace, the unhurried conversations, the neighbors who knew one another by name. The confidence that every summer would unfold exactly like the last. Time never asks permission before it moves on. It simply carries us with it. And somewhere between one ordinary season and the next, a way of life becomes a memory still beautiful, still meaningful, but no longer waiting just around the corner. Maybe you remember a place like this. Perhaps it wasn't Atlantic City. Perhaps it was a small lakeside town, a neighborhood shopping street, a county fair, or a beach where your family returned every summer without ever needing to ask where to stay or what to do. Somehow, everyone already knew. You can probably picture it even now. the sound of wooden boards beneath your shoes, the taste of melting ice, cream on a warm evening, the feeling of holding someone's hand as you crossed a busy street, the laughter that seemed to echo a little longer after the sun went down. Memory has a gentle way of keeping the details that matter most, not every building, not every face, just the moments that made you feel at home. As we've walked together through this single summer day, you may have noticed something unexpected. The places themselves are beautiful, but they are never the whole story. It's the people who give them life. The father carrying sleepy children back to the hotel after a long day in the sun, the grandmother saving every postcard tucked inside an old kitchen drawer, the shopkeeper who remembers your favorite candy before you even ask, the lifeguard who whistles at the edge of the surf, watching over strangers as though they were neighbors. These are the threads that quietly hold a place together. Years pass, buildings are renovated, businesses change hands. Old signs disappear, new ones take their place, yet the feeling remains surprisingly stubborn. One familiar scent, one old photograph, one song on the radio. Sometimes that is all it takes to open a door you thought had been closed forever. If you grew up in this era, you know that memories rarely arrive all at once. They come softly, like waves reaching the shore, one after another. Perhaps that is why we return to places like this, even if only in our minds, not because we expect to find everything exactly as it was, but because we hope to meet an earlier version of ourselves waiting there. The child who believed summer would never end, the teenager who laughed with friends beneath glowing neon lights, the young couple who promised they would come back next year. In some quiet way, they are all still here. Not walking beside us on the boardwalk, but walking beside us in memory. And maybe that is enough. Because while time changes every place it touches, it cannot erase the feeling of belonging that those ordinary days leave behind. Those moments continue to live wherever someone remembers the sound of the ocean, the warmth of the evening air, and a walk that never truly ended. The lights grow smaller behind us as we reach the end of our walk. The ocean is still there, whispering against the shore just as it did this morning. The wooden planks still carry the echoes of countless footsteps. Somewhere, a final ride is coming to a gentle stop. A restaurant turns off its neon sign. A shopkeeper locks the front door with the quiet confidence that tomorrow will bring another summer day. We take one last look, not because we're saying goodbye forever. Because some places deserve to be remembered one more time. Some places don't survive, but they're never really gone. They live in faded photographs stuck inside family albums. They live in postcards saved in old desk drawers. They live in the smell of salt air, the creak of weathered wood, and the sound of distant laughter that somehow returns whenever we close our eyes. Most of all, they live in the stories we continue to share. Thank you for taking this walk with me. If this journey brought back a memory of your own, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment and tell us about the beach, boardwalk, hometown, or summer tradition that has stayed with you through the years. Your memories become part of these walks too. And if you enjoy returning to the forgotten streets, familiar faces, and everyday moments that shaped another generation, consider subscribing to The Way We Were so we can keep these memories alive together, one journey at a time. Until our next walk, keep a place in your heart for the ordinary moments. They are so often the ones that last the longest. Which place should we walk through next?